The Sewerage and Water Board relies on old, frequently broken down turbines to power its drainage pumps, and that contributed to flooding during big rainstorms this summer.
Well, after those floods, Eyewitness News assembled a team of investigative reporters and researchers to examine our drainage issues. In our last report, David Hammer found that experts have been calling for a cheaper, more reliable source of power for those old turbines, but mistrust and disputes with Entergy have sent those plans down the drain.
In the days after the August flood, the city admitted it couldn't generate the electricity needed to power all the pumps used to drain the streets. That electricity comes from two sources, Entergy and the Sewerage and Water Board's own power plant, which uses old, often broken down steam turbines to make electricity. The idea is to have a reliable backup or redundant supply of power, as Mayor Mitch Landrieu often stresses.
The system needs redundancy in it. For redundancy, and then the redundancy, have the redundancy in place.
You know those old steam turbines they're constantly trying to fix? Those are supposed to be the redundancy, especially because making power in-house is very expensive. In fact, it costs 4 times as much for them to make power with the steam turbines than it would to just buy it from Entergy. But the Sewerage and Water Board has long had doubts about Entergy's ability to deliver power when it needs it most.
I've been advised that one of the challenges that we have with Entergy Power, you've alluded to it earlier, is that the feeder line is feeble.
Now the feeder line is feeble because it's an overhead residential line, the kind that supplies electricity to homes and tends to go out in bad weather or even sometimes on a beautiful day like today. Now this power pole outside 5 Happiness Restaurant, not only does it supply most of the electricity to homes and businesses in the Carrollton neighborhood, but to most of the city's drainage system. This map shows what most consider a much more reliable way. These are Entergy's underground transmission lines. They would be protected from high winds and fallen tree limbs, and they run directly from Entergy's power plant at 9 Mile Point, right past the Sewerage and Water Board's power plant on Monticello Street. All that's needed to deliver the electricity directly to the plant is a substation, like this one in Mid-City. Power experts have been recommending a dedicated substation for more than 5 years. Former Sewerage and Water Board member Alan Arnold brought it up again in September.
The best option would be to go to Entergy and work something out and have it as the major source.
But the mayor suggested the substation was too expensive.
The substation for Entergy went from costing potentially $10 million to $100 million.
But Eyewitness News uncovered this document from October of last year. In it, Entergy says the cost to build the substation was only $12.5 million. At the time, Sewerage and Water Board Executive Director Cedric Grant said he wanted to move forward with the substation, but insisted Entergy should pay for it. Emails show the dispute lingered all year. As recently as a few weeks ago, this Entergy rep was still asking, who is going to pay for the substation? Well, what were you saying about the substation costing $100 million? That's not what the quote was from Entergy.
But when, again, as we get into what the possibilities are, if in fact we're going to do something more significant in terms of buying our power, then Entergy system has to be hardened as well. That gets you to $100 million. It could be more than that.
Entergy's price for the substation has gone up, but nothing close to what Landrieu claimed. At 9:50 a.m. on September 21st, the mayor said the substation price tag had skyrocketed to $100 million. But 11 minutes later, Deputy Mayor Ryan Burney sent this email to a representative for Entergy. Here with the mayor at Sewerage and Water Board meeting, do you have the estimates for the substation options yet? The Entergy rep replied, $14.3 million. Back in August, the mayor bought 5 backup generators to supply that redundant power that's so important in the event of severe weather. The cost of those generators? About $14 million. David Hammer, Eyewitness News.
And when the city asked Entergy for a substation cost estimate last year, Entergy refused to turn over information about outages in its transmission system.
Landrieu's office also says the price of a substation would be higher than Entergy quoted because the Sewerage and Water Board also needs frequency converters to make that electricity work with the city's oldest pumps.